Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, now can you all hear me? I think there was some audio issue. Is the voice clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay,
Yes, sir.
wonderful. है ना? ठीक है. So, a very good evening to all of you. I will start with the session. Let me just change a few things here. Uh, just a moment. Okay, people. So we can start, and good evening, everyone. So today I am taking a session, and the session is on main idea of the passage, why it is so important, and it is a kind of an introduction to RCs. So whenever I take RCs, I always start with the main idea primarily. And it is very important that you understand the importance of main idea, even if there is no question on main idea. Because main idea is something that you will use in solving all the questions. तो आप मुझसे पूछो कि सर ये main idea, how can we use the main idea in solving all the questions? Understand this. See, when CAT gives you questions, there are lots of questions in which you will have certain options which are not in tune with the main idea. So, for example, the question might say, the author would agree with all of the following except, or the author would agree with which of the following statements, or which of the following is not true as per the passage. So there could be many questions which are not worded like what is the main idea of the passage. They have a different wording. So when you have a different wording, you will have options which are in conflict with the main idea every time. So the main idea is something X, and there are options which are in conflict with the main idea. So what do I mean by in conflict with the main idea? In conflict basically means that the author is suggesting that, let's say the author has to say that that industrial pollution is causing a great deal of harm to the environment. This is the main idea. And there could be some options which are in conflict with the main idea. So even if there is no main idea question, you should always have a good grasp on what exactly is going on in the passage. And secondly, when you read the passage, the main idea helps you create a structure of the passage. What is the author saying in the first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph, and so on and so forth. So this is how it all works. Now, the point is, there are two very, very important questions when you start with the RCs. The first is, let me just put this thing in place. The first question that people ask me is, should we read the RC first while we attempt the RC passages? This is a common tendency. You feel like, chalo, fatafat RC pad lo, go through the RCs quickly, and go through the RC questions very quickly and look at the RC and try to find the answer. This is one of the conventional methods that we used in our school days. Look at all the questions 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go ahead and read the passage. And as and when you come across a certain paragraph that had discussed a certain question, you can just pause there for a while, find the answer, and mark. Now, this is a very, I would say, one of the most tried and tested method which we used in our school days. And this method could be of help only when you are solving factual based questions, in the sense that the questions are based on certain facts or information searching. We call that hunting for the answer. Hunting for the answer ka matlab kya hai? The information is scattered around the passage, and it talks about inflation, and inflation has been different in different years. So there is a question that tells you that in which of the following years the inflation was highest. So you will simply go and read the passage. You will see where the word inflation has come. You will look at the figures and then you will mark the answer. That's in so and so year, the inflation was the highest. A simple factual question. Now, this may not always be factual. Sometimes it could be inferential. The author has not given the exact figure, but he has discussed it in such a way that from that you infer that the inflation was the highest in this particular year. So most of the time, when you read the question first and then you go to the passage, it works when the question is factual in nature, but it could be very time consuming. So the standard approach that I have to suggest always is you forget about the question. You can take a look at the questions. How many questions, and how long are the options? What are the kind of questions? All these kind of things you can definitely check. But it would be not possible for you to predict कि यार ये question बना पाऊंगा कि नहीं बना पाऊंगा. So rather than taking the long route, I would give you a very simple step, simple method. The simplest method is you read the RC first and then go ahead and look at all the questions. It's a very simple method. Read the entire RC, go through the questions, and once you read the RC, while reading, you will realize that every paragraph is discussing something special. I will give you an example how the reading helps you remember things. So this is the RC that we have in front of us, and I will read this RC for you. So just a moment. It says here, so I will take, this is a little tough passage. I will take something which is a little easier. So let's take passage number 5. It says Milankovitch proposed in the early 20th century that the ice ages were caused by variations in the Earth's orbit around the Sun. For some time, this theory was considered untestable, largely because there was no sufficiently precise chronology of the ice ages with which the orbital variations could be matched. So when you read this paragraph, what do you get from it? That the author talks about some scientist, and he said that the ice ages were caused by the variations in the Earth's orbit. And this theory was untestable because of some reason. And this reason was with respect to the chronology of the ice ages. So the moment you read the paragraph, you realize that this is talking about something which is concerned with the ice ages. So these words start dominating your memory. All these words you register and you say, okay, it is talking about the ice ages caused by something. The theory was untestable because the chronology of the ice ages could not be matched with the orbital variation something. So you know that the author is talking about something called as ice ages, and he is putting a theory, and the theory cannot be tested because of some reason. So whenever you read, the heavier nouns start striking your memory. The heavier nouns means what? All the nouns which are little dominating the passage. So here you're not attracted so much by the words let's say, these words will not matter much. The sun, these, sometimes this theory, all these things. But what happens is the nouns start dominating your memory. So whenever you read, always these nouns, they start hitting your memory, and you realize that this paragraph is talking about something called as the ice ages, and it has something to do with the Earth's orbit. The author says that the theory was untestable. To establish such a chronology, it is necessary to determine the relative amounts of land ice that existed at various times in the Earth's past. So the author is now concerned with chronology. They wanted, there was no sufficiently precise chronology. And that's why to establish a chronology, it is necessary to determine the relative amounts of land ice that existed at various times. A recent discovery makes such a determination possible. Relative land ice volume for a given period can be deduced from the ratio of two oxygen isotopes. So now you understand that there are words oxygen isotopes 16 and 18 found in ocean sediments. Almost all the oxygen in water is oxygen 16, but a few molecules out of every 1,000 incorporate the heavier isotope 18. So now here you have the dominance of oxygen isotopes. So oxygen isotopes are the words that have started dominating this paragraph. When an ice age begins, the continental ice sheets grow, steadily reducing the amount of water evaporated from the ocean that will eventually return it. Because heavier isotopes tend to be left behind when the water evaporates from the ocean surface, the remaining ocean water becomes progressively enriched with oxygen 18. The degree of enrichment can be determined by analyzing ocean sediments of the period, because these sediments are composed of calcium carbonate shells of marine organisms. The higher the ratio of oxygen 18 to oxygen 16, the more land ice there was when the sediment was laid down. So this is something that I understand very nicely. So again, some of you will understand this, some of you will not understand this. What you realize is that the author seems to be talking about some theory proposed by this scientist. This was regarding the ice ages caused by the variations in the Earth's orbit, but it could not be tested because there was no precise chronology. But now that problem of chronology can be solved with the help of isotope oxygen 1618. This is what I understand. So the higher the ratio of 18 to 16, the more the land ice. So once you can use these isotopes, you can establish the chronology. This is what the author says. Without understanding what exactly is going on, you can go to the next paragraph, right? So when you move further here, just a moment, when you move further here, it says, as an indicator of shifts in the Earth's climate, the isotope record has two advantages. First, it is a global record. There is remarkably little variation in isotope ratios. Second, it is more continuous record than that taken from rocks or land. Because of these advantages, sedimentary evidence can be dated with sufficient accuracy by radiometric methods. The dated isotope record shows that the fluctuations in global ice volume over the past several 100,000 years have a pattern. An ice age occurs roughly once every 100,000 years. These data have established a strong connection between variation in the Earth's orbit and periodicity of the ice ages. So that means Milankovitch has been proven to be true. And what is this paragraph talking about? It talks about the isotope record has two advantages. The first has been given here, correct? And the second has been talked about here. So this paragraph talks about the advantages of the isotope method. However, it is important to note that other factors such as volcanic particulates or variations in the amount of sunlight could potentially have affected the climate. The advantage of the Milankovitch theory is that it is testable. Changes in the Earth's orbit can be calculated and dated by applying Newton's laws of gravity to progressively earlier configurations of the bodies in the solar system. Yet, the lack of information about other possible factors affecting global climate does not make them unimportant. So once you have read the entire passage, it is not always possible for you to remember everything. Please stop being an idealist. But if I ask you one question, that in which paragraph did you see the word Newton? Do you remember in which paragraph the word Newton came?
Last.
All of you will remember that it did come towards the end. You might not remember exactly, but you would say that yes, from what I recollect, the word Newton had come towards the end of the paragraph, not in the first half. If I ask you a question, where did you come across the word isotope? So you would say that the second paragraph is completely dominated by the word isotope. And so you will straight away go to the second paragraph and start hunting for the word isotope in this paragraph, and you will find it definitely. In fact, the entire paragraph is dominated by the word isotope. Again, if someone asks you, where did you come across the word marine organism or carbonate shells? So you will start, and you will say, yes, I did see that word somewhere. So you start scanning for that word. Some words you will definitely remember. Some words, because they have come only once or twice, you may not remember. This is what we call as a mapping the passage. Mapping का मतलब क्या होता है? that a certain word, a certain phrase has come in a certain place in the passage. And because you have read the passage, you know where it has come. This helps you go back to that part of the passage from where the question has come. This is one of the most important methods or ways by which you try to cut down on the amount of time you take to answer a question. Cutting down the amount of time that you take to answer the question is a very, very important step in solving RCs. Lots of questions you will have, which are straightforward questions. I mean, the answer to that question can be asked directly by going to the passage. You read 3 lines above, 3 lines below, and you have the answer almost certainly. In fact, every RC will have at least 1 or 2 such questions in which you need to be slightly intelligent to read and you will find the answer. So these are precisely what we call as the easier questions, fact-based, information-driven kind of questions. But if you tell me that this is what we call as going and finding a certain word in the passage. But if I ask you what is the dominant theme in the passage, then what will be the answer that you will give? What is the dominant theme? Can you give me 2-3 words which you feel is capturing the dominant theme of the passage? Yes, people. Anyone?
Ice Age.
Okay, Ice Age. But don't you think that the chronology of the Ice Age is the dominant theme, is the crux of the matter? Ice Age is definitely there, but it is not Ice Age alone that has come as a dominating theme. Ice Age along with one more word, and that is the chronology of the Ice Age is the point of concern of the passage. Yes or no? In addition to that, you will find that the chronology of the Ice Age is the point of concern, no doubt about it. And the author has given a method by which that chronology can be definitely established. And what is that method? The isotope oxygen. Oxygen isotope can be used to establish the chronology of the Ice Age. Can I say this becomes the theme of the passage? Everyone agrees with it, that this becomes the theme of the passage? So now look at the question here. The question says, in the passage, the author is primarily interested in. What do you think should be the answer? Please suggest your answers to me. Give me the answer A, B, C, D option. Which option do you think is the best?
Sir, D.
Okay, look at the options now. Suggesting an alternative to an outdated, there is no outdated research method. B says introducing a new research method that calls an accepted theory into question. Initiating a debate, presenting a theory and describing a new method to test that theory. Can I say this theory is given by Milankovitch, the scientist whose name had come at the start of the passage? So what is that theory? A theory is being presented by someone, and who is that person? Milankovitch proposed in the early 20th century that the ice ages were caused by variations in the Earth's orbit around the sun. So this is the proposal that Milankovitch gave. And then the isotope method has been suggested by the author as a method by which we can test his theory. And towards the end, he says that these data have established a strong connection between variations in the Earth's orbit and periodicity of the ice ages. So he's saying that, yes, Milankovitch theory was there, it was untestable, but now we can use the isotope method to say that, yes, his theory was correct. Now, the author could also have taken a U-turn. He could have said that Milankovitch proposed a theory, but if you do the isotope method, the theory turns out to be flawed. And so you have used a method to basically disprove a theory. So the method could have been used to support the theory, or the method could have been used to disprove the theory. So the question and the author or the option has been worded such that presenting a theory and describing a new method to test that theory, though the author does not say that the testing has been successful or not. But this is the primary purpose of the passage. Everyone agrees with it that this is the right answer, and indeed this is the right answer. Presenting a theory and describing a new method to test that theory. Yes or no? So you
Yes.
have to understand all the major players in the passage. Who are the key elements? There is Milankovitch. There is this theory. This theory, the author describes at the opening in the opening part of the paragraph, and then goes on to write a long second paragraph, saying that how this theory can be tested. And then he successfully says that this theory proves that yes, Milankovitch was right. The ice ages were caused by the variation in the Earth's orbit.
So
See,
why not?
hmm?
So why not option B, to call an accepted theory into question?
He's not calling it into question, because when you call something into question, you should doubt that. Because उसने doubt नहीं किया है, उसने support किया है. That's what I said. That if you look at this here, it says that these data have established a strong connection between variations in the Earth's orbit and periodicity. मतलब कि Earth orbit does influence the ice ages. So if you call into question, that means Milankovitch theory is being doubted by the author. And that's the reason why option B is not the right answer, because okay, new research method ठीक है, new है, मानता हूं मैं. That calls an accepted theory into question, ये problem. Calling something into question is doubting that. But is the new research doubting the theory, or is it supporting the theory?
He was just skeptical about the method used in the previous theory.
नहीं, previous theory तो कुछ है ही नहीं ना, अपने पास कोई theory है ही नहीं actually.
So the theory which was proposed in the first passage, he was just doubting the method used because we do not have the proper chronology.
नहीं, उसने क्या कहा है ना, for some time this theory was untestable. ये theory तो उसने दे दिया, लेकिन टेस्ट कैसे करोगे? समझ में आया कि नहीं? तो थियरी तो ये है ही इसके पास, मिलैंकोविच की थियरी, टेस्ट कैसे करोगे? तो टेस्ट करने का कोई तरीका नहीं था, तो उसने कहा कि ये तरीका निकाला है फिर, to establish such a chronology it is necessary to determine the amount. So जो आइसोटोप वाला मेथड है ना, ये बेसिकली यूज कर सकते हैं इस थियरी को टेस्ट करने के लिए. तो आप ये जो बोल रहे हो ना, किसी अंडरस्टैंड, यू हैव टू सेपरेट द एलिमेंट्स. आपने कहा इंट्रोड्यूसिंग अ न्यू रिसर्च, तो ठीक है भाई, रिसर्च मेथड है, चलो मैं मानता हूँ रिसर्च मेथड, दैट कॉल्स एन एक्सेप्टेड थियरी. ये एक्सेप्टेड थियरी कौन सी थियरी है? मिलैंकोविच की थियरी है ना.
which was introduced in the first para.
हाँ, तो उसको इज ही कॉलिंग इनटू क्वेश्चन, और इज ही सपोर्टिंग इट एंड सेइंग कि हाँ वो सही था?
He is
कॉलिंग
just
इनटू, हाँ,
he supported.
सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, तो कॉलिंग इनटू क्वेश्चन क्यों लिख रहे हो आप? वो थियरी को बोलता है कि टेस्टेबल नहीं था वो, उसको हम अब टेस्ट कर सकते हैं. इसने इनफैक्ट उसने कोई सपोर्ट भी नहीं किया, उसने बोला कि अब हम टेस्ट कर सकते हैं. और टेस्ट से ये समझ में आता है कि वेरिएशन से आईसीएच की पीरियोडिसिटी फर्क पड़ता है. इसका मतलब मिलैंकोविच की थियरी को सपोर्ट मिल रहा है. मिलैंकोविच तो वही बोल रहा है ना. लुक एट द फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ, व्हाट मिलैंकोविच हैज टू से. मिलैंकोविच क्या कहता है? फॉर सम टाइम, देखो मिलैंकोविच ने क्या प्रपोज किया? आइस एजेस वर कॉज्ड बाय द वेरिएशन इन द अर्थ्स ऑर्बिट. आइस एजेस वर कॉज्ड बाय द वेरिएशंस इन द अर्थ्स ऑर्बिट. और डेटा से क्या मालूम पड़ा अपने को? डेटा से क्या मालूम पड़ा कि these data have established a strong connection between variation in the Earth's orbit and ice ages. तो इस डेटा से अपने को जब यही मिल रहा है जो मिलैंकोविच ने प्रपोज किया है, तो फिर आप कॉलिंग इनटू क्वेश्चन क्यों बोल रहे हो उसको? आपकी रीजनिंग बहुत सटीक होनी चाहिए, बिकॉज ऐसे ही क्वेश्चंस में आप गलत कर दोगे. ऑथर ने कोई कॉलिंग इनटू क्वेश्चन नहीं किया, ऑथर ने उसको सपोर्ट किया है उल्टा. एक नया मेथड बताया उसने, आइसोटोप वाला मेथड, उसको यूज करके हम उसकी थियरी को सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं. बिकॉज पीपल बी वेरी क्लियर अबाउट व्हाट यू आर रीडिंग. घूमने लगोगे यहाँ वहां सब रॉन्ग हो जाएगा. समझ में आया कि नहीं एवरीवन? देखो, आपको पूरा ये मेथड बेशक ना समझ में आए कि क्या बकवास कर रहा है, मेरे को कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. मेरे को इतना समझ में आया है कि उसने एंड में ये कहा है कि द डेटा थ्रू द आइसोटोप सजेस्ट दैट the Earth's orbit and the periodicity of ices do have some connection, and this is what Milankovitch has to say. तो मिलैंकोविच ने जो प्रपोज किया था और जो हमको आइसोटोप के डेटा से मिल रहा है वो मैच हो रहा है. इसका मतलब मोटा मोटी मिलैंकोविच हैज बीन विंडिकेटेड. ये होता है मेन आइडिया. मोटा मोटा क्या बात चल रहा है, आइसोटोप 18-16 का रेशियो क्या है, कैसे काम कर रहा है, वो सेडिमेंट में कैसे जाएगा, ये सब स्कॉलरली वर्क है, इसको तो आप छोड़ो. इसलिए मैं कहता हूं हमेशा कि जब आप फर्स्ट टाइम रीड करते हो ना पैसेज को, तो उसका ब्रॉड स्ट्रक्चर को देख लो, उसके ब्रॉड मैसेज को देख लो, उसकी जो बारीकियां हैं, जो उसकी इंट्रिकसीज हैं, उसको डोंट वरी मच अबाउट दैट. दैट शुड बी नॉट योर कंसर्न एट ऑल. Are we clear now, everyone, that what do we mean by the main idea and why should we read the passage for the first time, keeping the broader structure in mind? जब आप आरसी पढ़ते हो ना पहली बार, तो आपको दो चीज का ध्यान देना है. एक तो क्या है कि आप when you're reading it for the first time, don't waste much time. It's a 500 word RC, 550 word RC. You should not take 5 minutes to read the RC. That is an overwhelmingly high proportion of time given to reading the RC. अगर आप 3 RC करते हो और आपने 15 मिनट खाली रीडिंग में लगा दिया, तो आपके पास टाइम बचा कहां पे सॉल्व करने के लिए? That's the reason why my suggestion is that you should read the first time little faster and try to note the keywords. Keywords का मतलब क्या होता है? कौन से पैराग्राफ में क्या कौन सी बड़ी बातें हो रही हैं? That should strike your memory, and it creates a map so that when you go to the question and when you see that the question is talking about something like this, you immediately go to the paragraph and check up for that. This way you would be able to save time. ठीक है? And always look at the author's attitude. Author कहाँ drive कर रहा है चीजों को? इससे बहुत फर्क पड़ेगा आपका. Clear, everyone? Did you understand now how this question has D as the right answer, as many of you correctly marked?
So, while reading, can we mark some keywords or can we write some keywords?
राइटिंग देखो, बहुत लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं सर क्या हम लिखें, क्या हम करें. मैं बोलता हूँ देखो, लिखने उखने का अभी आप हैबिट मत डालो, ठीक है? क्योंकि अगर आप लिखने की हैबिट डालोगे तो फिर वो आपको यूज टू हो जाओगे एंड देन इट बिकम्स लिटिल मोर, इट डिलेज द होल प्रोसेस. मेरा सजेशन क्या है ना कि आप बहुत डिले ना करें. आप इनिशियली यू विल रीड एंड you will have difficulty remembering everything.
Yes.
My suggestion is that you just fight it out that phase. जैसे आपको मैं एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ कि you will have some difficulty because you will not be able to remember lots of things. But as you start writing, you are basically creating a handicap for yourself. वो handicap फिर बना रह जाएगा, क्योंकि आप जब देखो क्या होता है ना कि आप बोलोगे सर should I try to remember the word when I have the smartphone and I can always find the meaning? मैं कहूँगा अच्छी बात है यार, स्मार्टफोन यूज करके मीनिंग निकाल लो, but then if you keep on doing like this all the while, you'd never be able to remember any word. इससे बेटर क्या है ना कि you read, as you read, you keep on reading, and once you come across a word, you just try to note down the word, write it down somewhere, and next time automatically उसकी meaning रह जाएगी. So there is no hard and fast that you have to definitely write it down. I mean, you should not do that ideally. छोटे छोटे पैसेजेस होते हैं, ठीक है, शुरू में तकलीफ होगी, बट मुझे लगता है डोंट वेस्ट मच ऑफ दैट टाइम. ठीक है? सो क्लियर टू एवरीवन नाउ दैट व्हाई द फर्स्ट रीडिंग हैज टू बी क्विक. You have to focus on the broad idea. You might not understand some sentences, but it's all right. For example, when I go to this same passage, as I was reading this passage, I was not able to understand much of what is going on here. यहां से लेके मेरे को यहाँ तक देखो बिल्कुल समझ में नहीं आया, सही बताऊं तो. Almost all the oxygen in the water is oxygen 16, but a few molecules out of every 1,000 have isotope 18. When an ice age begins, the continental ice sheets grow steadily, reducing the amount of water because heavy stores. इतना लग रहा है कितना हैवी हो रहा है मेरे लिए. हैवी हो रहा है क्यों मालूम है? क्योंकि मेरे को टेक्निकली कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, पहली बार पढ़ रहा हूँ. As if some chemical engineer or some a geologist is reading up. Someone who is a geologist will have better understanding, or someone who understands chemicals would understand this better. But for a layman like me, this is not very easy. So I understand, okay, so why is he doing all this? Why is he talking about 1618? This 1618 method will help him understand the chronology of the ice ages. So what he says towards the end, the higher the ratio of 1618 to 16, the more land ice there was in the sediment laid down. That means 18 to 16 ratio can help us identify the ice. So I understand this part, then I go and understand this part, and these two, when I connect, I know what this is technicality which the passage is talking about. I did not worry about it. I'm giving you guarantee that in the real-time examination, most of you will not understand what is given in the highlighted part. So what would you do? Would you read this 3 times to understand that? No, you can't afford that. You can come to this part of the paragraph only when there is a specific question which is technically talking about this part. So question बोल रहा है कि how will which of the following reasons results in higher proportion of oxygen 16? Then you know that I will come back to this part of the paragraph. I will read it again. And from this, I'm going to find the answer to that question. Then I will read this part very carefully. So careful reading is required of a specific part of the passage only when there is a question on that. Otherwise, there is no need for you to be very much focused about very minute detail of the passage. If you do that, you will never be able to answer the entire paragraph in a short amount of time. बिल्कुल सही, क्यों पढ़ना पूरा यार? And if you ask me, what is the author's tone and what kind of attitude? See, the author is indeed participating. I would say he is analytical rather than informative. He is analytical. He is giving me the method of analysis using which we can test Milankovitch theory. है ना? Milankovitch की theory को हम test नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, तो can I say he is giving a method of analysis by which you can break things down and test the theory? Clear with this, people? Everyone is with me in this regard.
Sir, so we can say that everything is not important in the passage.
Yes, everything is not important in the passage. For the first time when you read the passage, सब कुछ not important है यार. अरे कई बार तो ऐसा हुआ है ना कि आरसीएस के अंदर एक ही पैराग्राफ से पूरे के पूरे क्वेश्चन आ गए. इससे सब 4 या 5 सब के सब क्वेश्चन इसी से उठ के आ गए. मतलब आरसी बनाने वाले भी अजीब होते हैं. They don't design questions keeping the length of the passage. They will just take one paragraph and they will create all the 5 questions from that paragraph. ऐसा भी होता है. It's funny, but ठीक है. So पहली चीज क्या होती है ना कि try to get the grasp of the broader message of the passage. ठीक है. अब मैं काम करता हूँ, आपको second RC देता हूँ. I'm in the last one in the sequence. Please read all of you. सब लोग read करो और मुझे बताओ कि क्या बात चल रही है. Give me the keywords and then tell me that what do you think are the 4-5 keywords using which you can create the main idea of the passage. Question बाद में लेंगे अपन. ठीक है. Everyone please start reading. Once you reach the bottom, please tell me. I will scroll the page.
It basically talks about the minority-owned businesses and a bit of details with respect to the different communities and all.
Minority-owned business is the dominating theme of the passage, right?
Yes.
This is the yes, correct.
Sir, passage generally talks about the minority-owned business have the problem because they do not have the enough orders from the various companies.
तो क्या होता है ना कि देखो हमको है ना बहुत प्रिसाइज वर्ड पे आना है. हमारी अंडरस्टैंडिंग कई बार ना अधूरी होती है. जैसे किसी बच्चे ने कहा कि भाई ठीक है, व्हाट इज द थीम ऑफ द पैसेज, तो आपने कहा कि माइनॉरिटी ओन्ड बिजनेस. ये तो टॉपिक हो गया, मोटा मोटी ये बात तो हो रही है. लेकिन माइनॉरिटी ओन्ड बिजनेस के बारे में क्या, इसको ऐसा पढ़ना चाहिए. So recent years have brought minority-owned businesses in the US unprecedented opportunities, as well as new risks. Civil rights activists have long argued that one of the principal reasons why Blacks, Hispanics, and other minority groups have difficulty establishing themselves in business is that they lack access to the sizable orders and subcontracts that are generated by large companies. Now, Congress, in apparent agreement, has required by law that businesses awarded federal contracts of more than $500,000 to do their best to find minority subcontractors and record their efforts to do so on forms filled with the government. Indeed, some federal and local agencies have gone so far as to set specific percentage goals for apportioning parts of public works contracts to minority. So, इस paragraph में क्या समझ में आया आपको? What is this paragraph all about? This paragraph talks about minority-owned businesses given some sort of reservation kind of a thing by the government. If I want to simplify it, can I say the government is giving some sort of guaranteed federal contracts to minority-owned businesses? Yeah. So concern for minority-owned businesses is reflected in the first paragraph, and the government seems to have done that. है ना, क्या कहा? The Congress has required by law, look at this, that businesses awarded federal contracts of more than $500,000 do their best to find minority subcontracts and record their efforts. So you have to award contracts of these many dollars to minority-owned businesses and see how their efforts are bearing fruit. है ना? Corporate response appears to have been substantial. According to figures collected in 1977, the total of corporate contracts with minority businesses rose from this to that. That means there has been significant increase. The projected total of corporate contracts with minority businesses for the early 80s is estimated to be over 53 billion per year, with no let-up anticipated in the next decade. So और भी बढ़ेगा ये. Promising as it is for minority businesses, this increased patronage का मतलब होता है support, poses dangers for them too. So the author says this increased patronage is posing dangers as well. Pehla kya? Minority firms risk expanding too fast and overextending themselves financially. Since most are small concerns, and unlike large businesses, they often need to make substantial investments in new plants, staff, equipment, and the like in order to perform work subcontract to them. If thereafter their subcontracts are of some reasons reduced, such firms can face potentially crippling fixed expenses. The world of corporate purchasing can be frustrating for small entrepreneurs who get requests. So the author seems to be talking about some reasons as to why there are dangers for these minority-owned businesses. So he says that the first is this. What is this first danger? That they run the risk of expanding too fast and overextending themselves, right? The second risk is that white-owned companies, white-owned means white people मतलब गोरा. The second risk is that white-owned companies may seek to cash in on the increasing apportionments through formation of joint ventures. तो business तो क्या है, minority को white वाले आएंगे बोलेंगे चलो भाई JV joint venture बनाते हैं. And of course, in many instances, there are legitimate reasons for joint ventures. Clearly, white and minority enterprises can team up to acquire businesses that neither could acquire alone. But civil rights groups and minority businesses owners have complained to Congress about minorities being set up as fronts with white backing, rather than being accepted as full partners. Joint venture बनेगा लेकिन full partnership नहीं मिलने वाली. तो ये दूसरा problem है. Third, a minority enterprise that secures the business of one large corporate customer often runs the danger of becoming and remaining dependent. Even in the best of circumstances, fierce competition from larger, more established companies makes it difficult for small concerns to broaden their customer bases. When such firms have nearly guaranteed orders from single corporate benefactor, they may truly have to struggle against complacency arising from बिल्कुल सही, आप guarantee से business दे रहे हो, so they might become complacent, and that is not good for them. So the author, what he has done now, so all of you would agree ki, हाँ, sir, what is the theme of the passage? If I recollect, the topic of the passage is minority-owned businesses, no doubt about it. That is definitely the key word. But minority-owned business के बारे में क्या? This is the question that should come to your mind. The author has talked about minority-owned business all the while. But what is he discussing about minority-owned business? The first is that they are getting guaranteed contracts from the government, or the government is ensuring legally that they get contracts. And the author has tried to say कि हाँ, इसका तो फायदा होगा. But can I say he's talking more about the negative things in the long run?
Yeah, the pros and cons, like it's not pros and cons, but
it's cons. Primarily it is cons.
Yes.
Pros तो उसने खाली ये बोला है कि figures बोला है कि corporate response seems to have been substantial. यहाँ से यहाँ बढ़ेगा, वहाँ से वहाँ बढ़ेगा, बहुत अच्छा हो जाएगा. But then he goes on to talk about all the negativities, the dangers. Then he says that promising as it is for minority businesses, the increased patronage poses dangers, and then he goes on to discuss all the dangers. इसको कोई pros and cons नहीं बोलेगा, इसको तो मैं cons ही बोलूंगा खाली. because
Sir-
pros तो है ही नहीं, जो pros आप
Yes,
समझ रहे हो
yes.
वो तो समझ में आया कि नहीं? So can I say that the author is talking about the potential risk or dangers that this kind of patronage that minority-owned business are getting from the government? And that is how the answer comes. In fact, the wording, look at the primary purpose of the passage is to. What do you think is your answer? Yes, what is the answer?
Second one. B.
Okay. People are giving the answer, right? अच्छा, क्या लग रहा है आंसर? प्रेजेंट अ कॉमनप्लेस आइडिया. ये कोई कॉमनप्लेस आइडिया थोड़ी ना है यार. डिस्क्राइब अ सिचुएशन. व्हाट इज द सिचुएशन? Yes. Minority owned businesses being given government patronage. What is patronage? Support. Drawback क्या है उसका? कि there are 3 dangers that they might run into. Can I say this is the best choice that we have?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Everyone
Yes,
agrees?
sir. Yes,
तो
sir.
हमने क्या ऑब्जर्व किया? देखो, आपको ये समझना है कि what things did we observe? We observed that the keyword, usually the main idea revolves around the keyword. The keyword you pick, and then you just try to see which option has the keyword and which has describing a situation. Situation को नाम नहीं दिया उसने, लेकिन situation क्या है? Minority owned businesses getting government patronage. And what are the drawbacks? 1, 2, 3 given right across the paragraph. Clear to everyone? ठीक है? चलो, let's take one more RC number. So थीम को पकड़ना बहुत जरूरी है, और ये आप तब पकड़ पाएंगे जब आप एक broad reading करेंगे. If you get into the very minute details right from the start, you will get confused, and then you would end up spending too much time. You will not be able to get the crux of the matter. So we have finished 2 RCs. Let's take please take the 4th, this passage. Everyone, please read it and then tell me the keyword. I want to see the keyword from you, and then weave your main idea around the keyword.
So the keyword mostly is the uniqueness of any Japanese character, and the idea is basically it talks about how is it with respect to.
Okay. So, okay.
Sir, the thing that makes the Japanese character unique is that they have a strong traditional background, as well as they accepted the foreign achievement
Can I
and the
say
inventions.
Japanese character is dominant theme? बार-बार उसी की बात होगी. देखो, पता है क्या होगा? एक ऑप्शन बोलेगा जापानीज कैरेक्टर, एक ऑप्शन बोलेगा जापानीज सोसाइटी, एक ऑप्शन बोलेगा जापानीज वैल्यूज, एक ऑप्शन बोलेगा जापानीज इकोनॉमी. एक एस्पिरेंट के लिए ये जानना बहुत जरूरी है Is the passage talking about Japanese society or Japanese value or Japanese character or Japanese economy? This is where the distinction starts. And your critical thinking and your ability to observe and understand becomes very clear from this. So the uniqueness of Japanese character is the result of two things.
So Japanese character and Japanese society seems to be quite close of.
हाँ, अब कैरेक्टर सोसाइटी है, सोसाइटी का मतलब कलेक्टिव हो गया और कैरेक्टर का मतलब इंडिविजुअल हो गया, है कि नहीं? सोसाइटी तो वो होती है जहाँ पे लोग इकट्ठे हो जाते हैं.
But the passage mainly talks about the Japanese, that they accepted their own traditions
So
as
it is
well as
talking about the Japanese people. The uniqueness of
Yes.
Japanese character is the result of two seemingly contradictory forces: the strength of traditions and selective receptivity to foreign achievements and inventions. As early as the 1860s, there were counter movements to the traditional orientation. Yukichi Fukuzawa, the most eloquent spokesman of Japan's Enlightenment, claimed the Confucian civilization of the East seems to me to lack two things possessed by Western civilization: science in the material sphere and a sense of independence in the spiritual sphere. Fukuzawa's great influence is found in the free and individualistic philosophy of the Education Code of 1872, but he was not able to prevent the government from turning back to the canons of Confucian thought. Another interlude of relative liberalism followed World War I, when the democratic idealism of President Woodrow Wilson had an important impact on Japanese intellectuals and especially students. But more important was the Leninist ideology of the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution. Again, in the early 1930s, nationalism and militarism became dominant as a result of failing economic conditions. So what we see basically is that what are the things influencing Japanese people? So there is the tradition and there is the foreign achievement and invention and the receptivity to that. ठीक है, तो भाई यहाँ पे लिखा गया है कि there was liberalism which influenced these people, democratic idealism, then there was Leninist ideology and all these things, right? So the Japanese people were influenced by these kind of things. Following the end of World War II, substantial changes were undertaken in Japan to liberate the individual from the authoritarian restraints. The new democratic value system was accepted by many teachers, students, intellectuals, and old liberals, but it was not immediately embraced by society as a whole. Japanese traditions were dominated by group values and notions of personal freedom and individual rights were unfamiliar. Japanese tradition है ना, उसमें group values को बहुत importance दिया गया, but personal freedom and individual rights, they were not very important. Today, democratic processes are clearly evident in widespread participation of the Japanese people in social and political life. Yet, there is no universally accepted and stable value system. Values are constantly modified by strong inclusions of Western ideas, both democratic and Marxist. School textbooks expound democratic principles, emphasizing equality over hierarchy and rationalism over tradition. But in practice, these values are often misinterpreted and distorted, particularly by the youth who translate the individualistic and humanistic goals of democracy into egoistic and materialistic ones. Most Japanese people have consciously rejected Confucianism, but vestiges of the old order remain. An important feature of relationships in many institutions, such as political parties, large corporations, and university faculties, is the Oyabun Kodun, or parent-child relation. A party leader, supervisor, or professor, in return for loyalty, protects those subordinate to him and takes general responsibility for their interests for the entire lives, an obligation that sometimes even extends to arranging marriages. The corresponding loyalty to the individual. So what you understand from the entire paragraph is talking about people, their tradition, their what they hold important, of values, principles, uski baat ho. So what happens is, one thing is quite sure, that if you ask me what is the dominant theme of the passage, of course it is Japan. And not Japan as a country, but I would say Japanese people, or I would say not even Japanese society, it is Japanese character. It is Japanese system of accepting certain things. The tradition is there, the Western influence is there, and they are receptive to it. ऐसा नहीं कि उन्हें उड़ा के फेंक दिया. So there is the traditional value system that is dominating. Then also there is the Western influence of liberalism and democratic idealism, all these things are. So can I say that broadly speaking, we are not concerned with Japanese economy or Japanese history or Japanese Japanese character might be true. Japanese people could also be correct. Japanese value system could be even more appropriate. Or you might say Japanese society also. But society क्या होता है ना कि society is basically collective. What we are concerned here is not Japanese society, but Japanese people's own character and what is influencing that character. So Confucianism, there is the Western influence, all these things. So the question then asks, the author is mainly concerned with. What do you think is the author concerned with? Yes.
So option C.
Discussing some important determinants of Japanese values. हाँ, Japanese values मुझे सही लगता है ये word. So if I start going through the options, there are certain words which I like. Can I say this is totally off the track? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Can I say that
Yes,
option B is totally off the track? कोई बात नहीं, फालतू की बात कर रहा है. तो हम B को निकाल के फेंक देंगे. ठीक है? Describing managerial practices. अरे यार वही बात हो गई ना, Japanese industry का कोई बात नहीं हो रहा है, वो ओयाबुन कोबुन है, but that is not in Japanese industry as such. इसको भी बाहर कर दो निकाल के. Explaining the influence of, do you think that this is specifically what the primary concern is? This is one of the elements, no doubt about it. But do you think this is specifically the primary concern?
No.
No, sir.
Confucianism ने influence किया है, but that is not the dominant theme of the passage. In fact, it is just one small side of the story in which there are many other sides. तो मैं इसको भी चूज नहीं करूंगा, मेरे पास दो ही बचता है, C and E. Is he contrasting society or is he comparing the value system?
Sir, value system.
Value system. Society के बहुत फोकस नहीं किया है. Society मतलब लोग जब इकट्ठा होते हैं. Society is created by when people come together. The focus is not on society. The focus is primarily that Japanese people's character and value system is influenced by what? The traditional thing and also the Western thing. Pull over hai uske beech mein. Can I say that option C is the best answer? Everyone agrees with it?
Yes, sir.
है ना? तो अपने को पकड़ना आना चाहिए, ये आप हमेशा ध्यान दो. You should be able to capture the keyword and then see कि वो options. That's why अभी what we have done here, we have actually captured we have captured the main important words in the option. Confucianism, economic success. Is it economy? Is it value system? Is it industry? It is society. So what I said initially happens in all the options. You start comparing immediately when you see the option. कि भाई क्या ये इंडस्ट्री है या ये सोसाइटी है या ये इकोनॉमी है या ये कंफ्यूशियनिज्म है. बहुत लोग पता बोलेंगे अरे इसकी तो बात कई बार हुई है, माफ करके आगे बढ़े आप. But they forget that this is not the main concern. Okay? So learn to separate and evaluate the options, and from that you will start getting the right answer.
Sir,
हाँ,
pre-war and post-war is not mentioned anywhere, right?
हाँ, pre-war post-war तो है ही नहीं ना यार. सोसाइटी कहाँ हो गई चेंज? मतलब अगर आप प्री-वॉर पोस्ट-वॉर ढूंढ के निकाल भी दोगे मुझे, तो मुझे ये समझ में नहीं आता है कि सोसाइटी की बात कहाँ हो रही है. ये तो बोल रहा है कि लोगों की वैल्यू सिस्टम जो थी वो कैसे इन्फ्लुएंस हो रही थी. सो इट इज ऑलवेज the people's value system, most Japanese people, an important feature of relationships. So it is not society as such which is the focus. It's the wrong word actually. Please take the third RC, all of you. बहुत इजी है, आराम से पढ़ोगे, पढ़ने मजा भी आएगा.
So if I may, basically with respect to the problems,
पूरा पढ़ा आपने?
नहीं पूरा तो आप दिया नहीं था.
पूरा पढ़ो, प्लीज टर्न ओवर, है ना? तो कई बार पता है एग्जाम में क्या होता है, पीपल अज्यूम दैट 4 क्वेश्चन होंगे आरसी में, 4 क्वेश्चन करके आगे बढ़ जाते हैं, 5वां दिखते ही नहीं है।
सर थोड़ा ऊपर कर दीजिए। यस सर, थोड़ा ऊपर कर दो।
ऐसे
जी सर।
सर नीचे करना।
Problems faced by the archaeologists due to illegal excavation.
तो आर्कियोलॉजी डेफिनेटली इज वन ऑफ द थीम्स ऑफ द पैसेज। आर्कियोलॉजी की बात हो रही, बट क्या बात चल रही है आर्कियोलॉजी के बारे में?
How they are affected by the illegal excavation and what are the possible problems?
Illegal excavation is also one of the major things here, right? Archaeology and illegal excavation, they are going parallelly, hand in hand. है ना?
Reasons and the probable solutions to it.
Archaeology as a profession faces 2 major problems. First, it is the poorest of the poor, and only paltry sums. Paltry का मतलब small होता है. Only paltry sums are available for excavating, and even less is available for publishing the results and preserving the sites once excavated. Yet archaeologists deal with priceless objects every day. Second, there is the problem of illegal excavation. तो पहला problem ये है ना कि यार उसमें पैसे ही नहीं है ना? और मतलब they are dealing with priceless objects, but there is no money in the profession. दूसरा क्या है कि the problem of illegal excavation. I would like to make an suggestion that would at one stroke provide funds for archaeology and reduce the amount of illegal people. I would propose that scientific approach. So उसने एक suggestions दिया है कि भाई ये करो, फिर ये करो, फिर ये करो, ये सब करने से क्या होगा, फंड्स भी आ जाएंगे और इलीगल डिगिंग भी कम हो जाएगी। यही बात हो रही है ना? You
Yes,
will
sir.
get funds as well as the illegal digging would not go away completely, but at least it would get minimized. ये सर मोटा मोटी यही बात हो रही है ना कि वो कैसे करेंगे, क्या होगा। So he is presenting some suggestion, then he is giving counter argument to that. So है ना, खुद ही एक पॉइंट प्रेजेंट करता है, फिर खुद ही उसकी जो वीकनेस होती है उसको टैकल करता है। So he to say that illegal digging would stop if artifacts were sold to the open market, but the demand for the clandestine products will be substantially reduced. Who would want an unmarked pot and another was available whose provenance was known and that was stated stratigraphically by the professional? ठीक है, so the author says कि अगर हम डुप्लीकेट्स को ओपन मार्केट में बेचें तो इलीगल डिगिंग अपने आप बंद हो जाएगा, बिकॉज चोरों से कौन खरीदेगा ओपन मार्केट में ओरिजिनल माल अवेलेबल है तो। This is what he says, right? So, ठीक है, easy to understand. I think most of you would say that this was the easiest of all passages. And what is the primary purpose of the passage? This becomes very specific, right? And is he presenting an alternative to that? No.
सर B.
answer is B.
A way to curb illegal digging while benefiting the archaeological profession. So the curbing would happen. This curb would happen because you are taking a step to sell the duplicate copies in the open, which are all cataloging. Again, this is not the dominant theme of the passage. So this is a very, very simple RC, and B is indeed the right answer. Clear to all of you, everyone? Yes, सबको समझ में आ गया? So what we learn from all this is that it is not very difficult, people, to get hold of this particular thing. ऐसा कोई बहुत ऐसा नहीं है कि यार मतलब main idea is something very challenging and difficult. What you should learn throughout is learn to go back to the right part of the passage. Firstly, learn to compare the options. ये बहुत important है. देखो आपको भले समझ में नहीं आया, but once you start comparing the options, you start asking questions. कि यार B और C में तो फर्क है. What is there in B which is not there in C, and vice versa. And this makes you think कि अरे यार ये क्या difference है? Let me go and check. So this is where the critical thinking starts, and this is where you get the answers correct. So हो सकता है quite possible that when you read the RC for the first time, कुछ भी click ना हो, कुछ भी समझ में ना आए, एकदम zero होगा. But the chances are that once you read the questions and you start scanning the RC again to answer that question, you will get a better understanding of the same answer. It's quite possible. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So let's go and take the first RC now. थोड़ा वो tough है, but first RC will give you a very interesting perspective. ठीक है. चलो पहला वाला RC पकड़ते हैं and try this. This would be the last for the day. Please start with this.
Sir, author is mainly analyzing the reasons for the decline in the population of Americans or the low population in America. And the historian, he says that the mainly the reason for this is the historians blame that the diseases, chronic diseases that were present in the old world time was the main reason that the population has declined at a rapid pace. And he, in the other para, he gives some points that proves that the chronic diseases were the reason.
बार disease की बात हो रही है ना, ये बीमारी वो बीमारी. Can I say
And
that this?
And he tries to prove by giving the example of the pre-Columbian New World.
Okay. So if everyone has finished the RC, should I scroll it down?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
यहाँ तक ही है, इसके आगे कुछ नहीं. तो जब मैं इसको पढ़ता हूँ ना तो मुझको कुछ क्लियर आता है. मुझे तो क्या बीमारी की बात हो रही है और किसको भी कौन बीमार हो रहा है. भाई बीमारी की बात हो, डिसीजेस की बात हो रही है, किसको हो रहा है डिसीज?
Diseases affecting the American people.
नॉट, ये गलती हो जाती है. अमेरिकन पीपल नहीं, नेटिव अमेरिकन.
Yeah, Native American, yes.
है ना. अमेरिकन मतलब कि फिर वो जो भी अमेरिका में अमेरिकन है, जो भी अमेरिकन सिटीजन है अमेरिकन हो गया. नेटिव अमेरिकन कौन है? जो वहां का नेटिव है. So if you know a bit of history, you will see that America has America was discovered by Columbus. It was not known to us. It was there before as well. It was not known to us. So who were the people who lived there before we knew America? They were the Red Indians, the Native Americans. So the Native Americans were always there. The Europeans reached there some time in the 15th, 16th century. और वो तो पहुंचे अपने साथ बीमारी लेके पहुंच गए दुनिया भर की, है ना? Diseases imported from the old world. इसका मतलब क्या है? Old world क्या है? यूरोप, एशिया. So the old world people from the old world went to the new world, which is America. And as people reached there, they also carried with them the diseases as well. And the Native American people, they did not have these kind of diseases before. So when these people reached there, they did not have immunity. So आप में immunity नहीं है, COVID-19 आया, immunity थी नहीं, कितने सारे लोग मर गए. कहने के लिए वो जुकाम की चीज, टाइप की चीज थी. But because there was no such strain earlier in the environment, the people did not have any immunity to it. So when it entered the population, it killed many people who were weak. So what happened with the North American people? So the author says that historians are blaming diseases imported from the old world for the staggering disparity in the indigenous population of America. 1492 में they were as high as 100 million, and by the end of 19th century they came down to few million. यानी 1492 से लेकर के 19th century में आते आते उनका population 100 million से कुछ few million तक आ गया. There is no doubt that chronic disease was an important factor, and this disease is what? Imported from the old world. And it is highly probable that the greatest killer was epidemic disease, especially as manifested in virgin soil epidemics. Or what is virgin soil epidemic? Virgin soil epidemics are those in which the population at risk have had no previous contact with the diseases that strike them. तो वर्जिन सॉइल एपिडेमिक वो डिसीज होता है जिससे आपको पहले कभी कांटेक्ट नहीं था. कांटेक्ट में आने पे क्या हुआ? बिकॉज यू हैड नो इम्यूनिटी, you died. And the author says that yes, ऐसा हुआ है. There is American history में there is very strong evidence that these maladies were unknown to the people. The effects of their sudden introduction are demonstrated in the early chronicles of America, which contain reports of horrendous epidemics. है ना? और फिर क्या लिखा हुआ है? The documents provided, the evidence provided by the documents of British and French colonies is not as definitive. Furthermore, the British tended to drive the native populations away rather than enslaving them as the Spaniards. So yes, the author is saying that if you look at all the records, आपको मालूम पड़ेगा कि यहाँ पे इतने मरे, वहां पे उतने मरे, यहाँ पे इतने खत्म हो गए, ऐसा हो गया, वैसा हो गया. He's giving all the data. 1616 में ये हुआ, 1630 में ये हुआ, 1820 में ये हुआ, और स्पेनिश रिकॉर्ड से ये अपने को मालूम पड़ता है. He's just giving all the evidence. And then he says, unfortunately, the documentation of these is slight and frequently unreliable. So we should supplement what little we do know with evidence from recent epidemics. उसमें भी यही तो हो रहा है ना? So what is the primary purpose of the passage? Please tell me your answer. What is the primary purpose? तो कौन सा बाहर जाएगा? सबसे पहले बाहर जाने वाला ये है. Agreed, everyone? What is dilemma? Dilemma is a confusion. कोई dilemma नहीं है. Opposing viewpoints भी नहीं है. भाई कोई opposing viewpoint नहीं है. Author बोल रहा है कि हाँ भाई बहुत लोग मरे हैं, और बहुत लोग जो मरे हैं ये वर्जिन सॉइल एपिडेमिक की वजह से हुआ है, जिसकी इम्यूनिटी उनके अंदर नहीं थी बेचारों. तो ये भी सही है. कौन सा मिसकंसेप्शन है? देयर इज नो मिसकंसेप्शन. कॉमन कहां से हो गया है यार? सो इन दोनों में से आंसर होगा. Is he providing a support for a hypothesis or is he analyzing an argument?
The
Yes or no?
support
analyzing
for
an argument.
hypothesis.
He is analyzing an argument. Now understand this. अब इन दोनों को लेके लोग बहुत परेशान हो जाते हैं. लोग बोलते हैं आर्ग्यूमेंट क्या है? आर्ग्यूमेंट ये है कि वर्जिन सॉइल एपिडेमिक्स killed most of the native Indians, correct? मोटा मोटी यही है ना? Or cost decline of the population of native Indians, correct? Can I say this is what you people would say is an argument? ये hypothesis भी तो हो सकता है ना? So can I say argument and hypothesis यहाँ बराबर हो गए? वैसे hypothesis क्या होता है? Can anyone tell me the meaning of the word hypothesis? What is the meaning of the word hypothesis?
Unproven.
Not tested, lab tested, not
Possibility. Hypothesis, possibility. है ना? Virgin soil epidemics killed many people is a possibility, right? Is he providing support to it or is he analyzing the argument? क्या उसको analyze कर रहा है या इसको support दे रहा है?
Analyze कर रहा है.
हाँ, the author is providing data. Data के द्वारा इसको support कर रहा है. Did you understand this? The author is providing data. कहाँ से data मिलता है? देखो आपको दिखाता हूँ मैं data कहाँ है. Author has right across the passage given data. So if you go above, you look at this. ये क्या है? ये क्या है? ये क्या है? ये आर्ग्यूमेंट का एनालिसिस है, डेटा दे रहा है उसको. ये सब डेटा है. उसके अलावा इज ऑल्सो प्रेजेंटिंग वन मोर डेटा. ऊपर जाओ, ये देखो यहाँ पे क्या लिखा हुआ है. है ना? तो हिस्टोरियंस ने बोला कि वर्जिन सॉइल एपिडेमिक किल्ड मेनी अमेरिकन्स. द ऑथर कम्स एंड सेज yes they are right, here we have the evidence. समझ में आया कि नहीं? So he is not analyzing anything, he is giving you data कि हाँ यार he is supporting the hypothesis. There is ample evidence for भरा हुआ है पूरा पैसेज इसी से. ठीक है? B is the answer.
Hello.
Yes.
So where there is data, there is no argument.
देखो आर्ग्यूमेंट, जो आर्ग्यूमेंट आप बोलोगे ठीक है मैं तो मानता हूँ जो आर्ग्यूमेंट है, ये फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये आर्ग्यूमेंट भी नहीं है यार. आर्ग्यूमेंट इज समथिंग व्हिच इज हाईली ओपिनियनेटेड.
Different opinions.
हाँ, जब मर्डर होता है ना, मर्डर किसी का, तो मर्डर तो हो गया, अब पता नहीं कौन मर्डर किया है. पुलिस हाइपोथेसिस बनाती है. आर यू गेटिंग माय पॉइंट? कि भाई ऐसा हुआ होगा कि चोर यहाँ से एंट्री मारा होगा, उसने फोर्स दरवाजा नहीं खोला होगा, किसी ने चाबी से खोला है अंदर, क्योंकि फोर्स एंट्री की निशान नहीं है. 2 ग्लास पड़े हैं, तो वो ग्लास में एक में अलग फिंगर है, दूसरे में अलग फिंगर प्रिंट है. So the police, when they don't know who the killer was, they create hypothesis. Possibility 1, possibility 2, possibility 3. The police is not creating an argument. तो यहाँ पर क्या हुआ है ना कि the native American population has declined from 100 million to a few million. So the historians have come and said that the most likely reason why the decline happened is basically because of the virgin soil epidemic, which came from the old world. So ये hypothesis है. अब ये possibility है. No one is guaranteed कि ऐसे ही हुआ होगा. And the author comes and says कि yes, they are right. Why? Because if you look at all the evidence collected over a period of time, you will find that yes, there is diseases which had killed many native Indians. So the author is clearly giving you support. अब आप बोलोगे सर एनालाइज, अब एनालाइज बड़ा फैंसी वर्ड होता है. एनालाइज का मतलब क्या होता है? एनालाइज का मतलब होता है कोई भी छोटी चीज को आप एकदम पीस पे पीस तोड़ तोड़ के उसको डिस्कस करें. And secondly, I don't see where is the argument all about. So when you see that there is ample support given for a hypothesis, आप उसको analysis मत देखो. Analysis word, what is analysis? Analysis is basically breaking down of complex thing into bits and pieces. Election हो गया, हार गए हम लोग, अब क्यों हारे, क्या हारे, कैसे हुआ होगा, वो सब चीज होती है. So if you look at the primary purpose of the author is coming in support of something rather than analyzing an argument. मुझे तो वो वर्ड आर्ग्यूमेंट ही पसंद नहीं आता, बट ठीक है चलो आर्ग्यूमेंट आपने उसको बोल दिया, बट इट इज बेटर, हाइपोथेसिस इज अ बेटर वर्ड फॉर दैट. एंड सेकेंडली, इट इज द ऑथर इज प्रोवाइडिंग सपोर्ट फॉर दैट हाइपोथेसिस rather than he is analyzing that argument.
The hypothesis might be wrong.
हाइपोथेसिस सही है. हाइपोथेसिस तब होता है ना एक फैक्ट.
It's a fact.
हाँ, हाइपोथेसिस क्या होता है ना कि एक पॉसिबिलिटी होती है, एक पॉसिबिलिटी के अराउंड वो घूमता रहता है.
It might be wrong. It's always.
हाँ, हाइपोथेसिस क्या होता है कि it's something that you believe to be true for a while. वो हाइपोथेसिस होता है. It could be right, it could be wrong, but it is temporarily believed to be true. In the last para, he says that it might be, where he says not. हाँ, मतलब few and far है, तो उसको बोलता है कि हाँ, तभी तो hypothesis है ना. He says that अपने पास जो record है ना, वो बहुत reliable नहीं है. Unfortunately, the documentation of these and other is slight and frequently unreliable. And it is necessary to supplement that what we do know with evidence from recent epidemics. तो फिर अपने को recent epidemics भी पकड़ना चाहिए. उसमें से भी वही आ रहा है. Cases such as this demonstrate that even diseases that are not normally fatal can have devastating consequences when they strike immunologically defenseless community. तो अपने पास डेटा बहुत सारा है, but that is frequently unreliable. So what we should do, we should look at the modern example. And when you look at the modern example, आपको वही चीज दिखती है. ठीक है, clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
तो अभी 9 बजे एक और अलग दूसरी क्लास है, तो आई नीड टू लॉग आउट. ठीक है
सर, तो इसका आंसर बी हुआ ना, हाइपोथेसिस
हाँ,
वाला.
इसका आंसर बी होगा यार. एनालिसिस एनालिसिस का पता नहीं, लोगों को एनालिसिस का मतलब ही नहीं पता होता है यार. मुझे बहुत मतलब अचंभा होता है कि एनालिसिस का मतलब होता है कि कोई ऐसी चीज जिसको आप कोई देखो. एनालिसिस के लिए पहले प्रॉब्लम होना चाहिए. इंडिया मैच क्यों हारी, इसका एनालिसिस होगा. आप मॉक लेते हो ना, तो मॉक लेते हो, सो फॉर एनालिसिस टू हैपन देयर हैज टू बी अ प्रॉब्लम. प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट दो, फिर हम एनालाइज करेंगे बैठ के. तो यहाँ पर आप बोलोगे प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट क्या है? प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट है कि बहुत सारे नेटिव अमेरिकन मारे गए. तो इज द ऑथर एनालाइजिंग दैट, इज द ऑथर सपोर्टिंग दैट? तो आप बोलोगे हाँ सर वो सपोर्ट कर रहा है. मतलब analysis is basically breaking down of something into bits and pieces and gives some sort of a micro picture of cause and effect. Data centric थोड़ी ना होता है. तो ये provide support for hypothesis appropriate, you know, इसके सामने ये चीज बेटर आती है. हाइपोथेसिस क्या है? वर्जिन सॉइल एपिडेमिक ने मारा होगा. सपोर्ट क्यों है? अरे दुनिया भर का डेटा दिया हुआ है यार, वो डेटा सपोर्ट करने के लिए दे रहा है. वो यहाँ पे इतने मारे गए, वहां पे उतने मरे, वहां पे उतने मरे. एनालिसिस थोड़ी ना होता है यार, ये तो फैक्चुअल डेटा दे रहा है. दैट इज नॉट एनालिसिस. एनालिसिस का मतलब होता है ब्रेकिंग डाउन ऑफ अ प्रॉब्लम इनटू बिट्स एंड पीसेस टू अंडरस्टैंड माइक्रोस्कोपिकली कि वो हुआ क्या था. तो एनालिसिस में आप खुद की रीजनिंग बहुत ऐड करते हो.
गॉट इट सर.
ठीक है, चलो बाय पीपल है ना. इसी देखो, अंडरस्टैंड दिस, वी आर हैविंग वेरी गुड आरसीज, बट दिस इज द वे यू हैव टू रीड एंड क्रिटिकली थिंक. अगर आप क्रिटिकली थिंक नहीं करोगे तो फिर बहुत मुश्किल हो जाएगा. ठीक है, चलो नेक्स्ट टाइम वी विल टेक सम मोर क्वेश्चंस.
ओके सर, हैव अ नाइस डे.
बाय, टेक केयर.
Thank you, sir.